But speaking of guns, let's talk about some cultural stuff. I want to talk about Alec Baldwin. We got some interesting news in the Alec Baldwin front from Deadline. Alec Baldwin today deleted his Twitter account, and so did Hilaria Baldwin, days after shock ABC interview. And I will tell you my thoughts. I think he deleted his account because his lawyers were like, you dumb mother effer. Everything you said incriminated you in killing this woman. And I am, I wouldn't say I'm more convinced than ever that he intentionally committed murder. I would say that interview that Alec Baldwin did with George Stephanopoulos was incredibly incriminating. And it sounds to me like the probability that he did intentionally murder this woman went up a decent amount. And I would put it at like, I don't know, if I were to think like what percentage of me thinks he intentionally killed this woman, it's like 26, 27%. And then like 20% says it was an accident or whatever. But this whole interview, it says to me, this guy, he did it.
Something's wrong there.
It's beyond wrong, man.
Yeah.
I mean, have you been following the story?
I have. No, absolutely. And I was surprised that he actually gave an interview, because if you're under any investigation, the last thing you want to do is have more words that can and will be used against you. That's why you have the right to remain silent. So I don't understand why he did this interview. I also found it funny that he chose Stephanopoulos, because Steffi probably thinks he is getting these big hits and like he's got to have some cool feature, but really it's because they know he's just an easy interview. If you are in trouble and you're on the left, go to Stephanopoulos and you will get a cakewalk. But even with the cakewalk, I mean, imagine if he went to a real journalist. Imagine if he sat down with someone who actually asked him hard questions.
I would have roasted this guy.
Oh, so he went to George Stephanopoulos for a cakewalk,
Yep.
and even in that cakewalk, he said a lot of stuff like the fact that he did or did not pull the trigger even.
Well, a lot of people are saying that this is rude to the family that's still in mourning, that he's
true.
making this kind of big media spectacle around this. And it's also, looking from the outside, it's also kind of psychotic to try to proclaim yourself as a victim here, which he was, in my kind of understanding of it, was trying to make himself out to be, making him the center of attention around this, when in reality, this was a very emotional issue that I don't think helps anyone in this situation.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of the facts and some of the things he said, and I'll just get straight to it. One of the things that really caught me was when he made this argument. Stephanopoulos asks Alec Baldwin. I'll give you the quick elevator pitch as to what happened. Alec Baldwin was on the set of the movie Rust. He pulled out a gun, pulled the hammer back, fired it, killed the cinematographer, and struck the director. There's a lot of other nuanced details we'll get into in a second, but Stephanopoulos said, "Why didn't you check the gun?" And Baldwin said, "You can't. When you're handed a weapon, if I were to open the chamber or take the clip out," I know he said clip, he meant magazine. He's like, "they would immediately take it away from me because it's been checked by someone else." He probably thought that was a really good argument. He probably was thinking about doing the interview, talked to some people, and they were like, "Oh, tell him you can't check the gun because then they would take it away from you." The idea being, if they saw, if the armorer was checking the weapon, taking it apart, putting it back together, checking the rounds, hands it to Alec Baldwin, and then he opens it up and does something to it, the armorer is now like, "Yo, I just checked this. What did you do?
Yeah.
Give that back to me. I'm checking it again." But that's a really dumb thing to say, because I'll tell you this. So Alec Baldwin, you recognize that the armor or prop guy, as he calls it, hands you a weapon. You can't do anything because that guy has to make sure it's checked, correct? Yes. Then why was it that when you were handed the weapon by the AD, who is not the prop person or the armorer, you did not find that suspect enough to call for the prop guy and say, "Please check the weapon"? Someone had manipulated it. If your argument is you can't check it because they would take it from you to check, why didn't you call for that when it was handled by someone who wasn't the armorer? That, in my opinion, is incriminating. Additionally, he claimed when he was on the street and the paparazzi were filming him, he was like, "She was my friend. She was my friend." In this interview, he was asked, "What did you know about Helena Hutchins?" Nothing. Nothing until she came on set. She was your friend, but you didn't know her until she took this job. He didn't know who she was. So why was he having dinner with her? Why was Alec Baldwin having dinner with someone who wasn't his friend he had just met? Now, it could be that they're working on set and they said, "Let's go grab dinner and talk about the movie." But at the same time, we know that there was labor concerns. The crew was complaining about safety conditions and pay, and people were walking off. Then we find out Baldwin's having a dinner with a woman he doesn't know, and he describes her in the interview as intense not interested in small talk, just getting down to business. So I don't know. You would have to believe that Alec Baldwin was handed this gun, popped open so these are single action revolvers. There's a little latch on the right side. You pop it open and then you can see, and you put the bullet in, spin, the cylinder doesn't come out like you see in like the video games where they flip it out, the single action. So we'd have to open the latch one by one, load it while spinning this, the cylinder. And if he wanted to put a bullet in it, he'd have to put one in and then close it. Very easy to do in my opinion. I think it's a bit of a stretch to assume that Alec Baldwin with one hand was holding a round, reached over because he had the gun on his side, and then popped it open, pushed the bullet in, pulled it out, and then shot her. But I also think it's still more absurd to assume that the gun had to be accidentally loaded with live rounds, to be given to a guy who's not supposed to handle it, to be handed to Alec Baldwin, who's not supposed to use it in this set, to then Alec Baldwin claimed that Helena Hutchins told him to point the gun at her and pull the hammer back. I'm like, I'm sorry, if that's the official story, and the alternative is Alec Baldwin put a bullet in a gun and shot a woman, I think that Alec Baldwin put a bullet and shot a woman is much more likely to be true. But I'm not saying it's definitive. I don't know. I'm just saying it's more likely.
Is he saying that she said, point the gun at me and shoot at me because she's a cinematographer, she's got a camera, she wants a POV, direct-to-camera shot, is what she's looking to shoot?
Yes.
Okay.
That he was saying, she kept saying, draw the gun. He pulls
Like
from the
Quentin
side.
Tarantino-esque type angle where you're literally looking right at the camera. Like,
or at a slight angle. And so the camera's here and she's just to the right of it and the gun is going slightly off.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. If his argument is she was telling me over and over again to draw the gun and point it at me, and then he says, she told me to pull the hammer back. And then I let go and it just fired. I didn't pull the trigger. That's not possible on a single action revolver unless he was holding the trigger depressed while pulling it back, which also seems like a strange thing to do. So all of these weird, I said this last month, I was like, all of these coincidences had to have occurred for Alec Baldwin to have accidentally shot this woman. Sorry, dude. He was holding a single action revolver. You pull the hammer back, it goes click, click. I think it may even go click, click, click. You can't just let it go. It doesn't go forward until you pull that trigger. So someone accidentally puts a bullet in it, gives it to the wrong guy. Alec Baldwin knows that's not supposed to be the guy who has it, and he's supposed to get the armorer to come check it because it was manipulated by somebody else. And then Helena Hutchins is like, yes, draw the weapon and aim it at me. Now pull the hammer back. Oh no, I've been shot directly through the chest, hitting my spine and killing her. I'm sorry, dude. Baldwin straight up killed that lady.
Going through her and hitting another person behind her as well. Actor John Schneider, he was in the Dukes of Hazzard, came out and said that he doubts that this gun went off by itself. He also called the whole interview bullish. Family-friendly show, you know what I'm trying to say. But he said that it was designed to, quote, make us feel sorry for Alec Baldwin. And I think he made some very interesting points surrounding this matter.
Is he the guy who did the YouTube video?
I'm not sure.
Which guy? The guy from which show?
John Schneider.
John Schneider. He did a
he was
YouTube
Bo
show, yeah.
Duke.
Yes.
And I think this is the guy who took the single action. He took it apart and he showed you exactly how it works. That was it.
And he said that there was a propaganda machine behind all of this. And as we know, Alec Baldwin has been working with PR emergency companies that have been implementing a lot of the kind of fake news, have been implementing a lot of the kind of noise around this matter, allegedly, according to a lot of sources surrounded in this case. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if a crisis manager came to Alec Baldwin and said, okay, we're going to sit you down, we're going to get rid of all this public pressure, we're going to make sure you get back into acting very soon. And Alex said, whatever it takes. And I think this was a part of the process that he thought would help him, but in reality, a lot of other people are calling him out.
You know what's really weird is that this woman was an investigative journalist.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
And a lot of people are there's a
Was
theory.
she investigating the Clintons?
Well,
I'm joking. I'm being facetious.
I know, but there are a lot of people pushing something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't see evidence for that. And I do think that's an attempt to push people away from the real story. You got to be careful with these really crazy conspiracies about, kids in basements at pizza parlors, because it is so absurd and easily disproven, but people believe the trash they read on the internet. What happens is you have this very serious story about Alec Baldwin, who killed a woman. We don't know why. She did work, we have it here on our Wikipedia page. She has a degree in international journalism and worked on documentary films as an investigative journalist in Eastern Europe. So all of a sudden, she now finds herself working as a cinematographer for the past few years. This woman was killed. Let's get to the bottom of it. But if people start pushing these crazy theories about the secret undercover investigation she was really pursuing, then all of a sudden you lose interest. CNN comes out and says it's a crackpot conspiracy. It was all an accident. And like that actor guy said, there's a propaganda machine trying to make us feel sorry for Alec Baldwin when he killed this woman.
Yeah, and I think you raise a great point that if you're Alec Baldwin's agent and his PR staff, the question is, how do we get you back to acting as fast as possible? And you look at the history of some Hollywood unsavory actors. I mean, heck, Roman Polanski gets standing ovations at the Oscars.
Yeah.
I mean, because his PR machine was so good. Now, granted, he's extradited in France, right? He can't come back, and he won't come back because he knows he'll get arrested. But Hollywood actors and actresses will still applaud Roman Polanski. And yes, he raped a 15-year-old girl, but he's a brilliant director. And I'm sure if you're Alec Baldwin's people, you're like, what's that compared to Roman Polanski or Harvey Weinstein or so many other people in Hollywood who have these histories?
Yeah, wasn't there a famous actress that made a speech about him saying, we need him back, we should get him back, it's unfair what's happening to him? What was her name?
I can't remember.
Was it Barbara or was it Whoopi? I forgot
was it
exactly
Meryl Streep or was someone did
a major
actress did give a, like, we need him, yes.
We need him back.
Was it the gap-toothed one? What's her name? She's from the family. All the families. What the heck's her name? I'll think of it.
I just think Alec Baldwin. If look, I don't see how an accident. It's like Final Destination. You know that movie, where the series of movies where the people die in really weird ways.
Right.
Like a truck is driving down the street, and then some guy spills his coffee, so he throws it out the window, and then it bounces, and then it hits a sign, which causes the sign to spin around and then point in the wrong direction, and then a truck turns left, but then slips on ice and flips over, and then the logs fly off the truck, bounce through the air, hit a car, which makes the car fly off a bridge, and then hit a guy. Like, that's what it sounds like to me when they explain the scenario that happened, according to Alec Baldwin. Or there's the really simple, like more real life, angry crew members. Alec Baldwin was frustrated, tired, angry, has a temper, and he said, screw this, bang.
Was he not supposed to have a gun in that scene? I heard that.
The official story from the script supervisor and the electrician was that he was supposed to have a gun, but he wasn't supposed to draw it or aim it, and it wasn't supposed to be handed to him by this assistant director.
So if he wasn't supposed to draw it or aim it, why would Helena Hutchins tell him to draw it and point it at her?
Well, she's dead, and she can't tell us exactly why that was happening.
The weird thing is, and I'm sure everyone's afraid to go public because this is an ongoing investigation, with the exception of, I've worked on a lot of Hollywood scenes. It was one of my earlier little things long time ago. There are no scenes that there are just 3 or 4 people. Porn shoots have staffs of 15 people, right? A lot of people saw this happen. The fact that none of them have come out publicly and said what happened, they're probably all afraid. They probably all have. This is definitely recorded on film. There's a lot of people who witnessed this. They're waiting for the investigation to go.
I'll tell you this,
to go forward.
right.
And I will say one last thing, if you don't mind. I've worked on movies with Oscar-winning actors and Oscar-winning cinematographers. Oscar-winning actors don't have dinner with cinematographers. Like the staff, they don't work with the staff unless something is wrong.
An A-lister meeting with a new cinematographer he just met.
No, it must have to do with the crew getting disgruntled.
Something is wrong. Or like they were like, Alec, you got to take her out to dinner because like
she's
you've got to win her over, or she's the only one putting up with your BS. So and he was like, fine, I'll do it. But I've been on movie sets where they don't.
The staff were pissed.
They don't.
Yeah, the staff were pissed off because of the budgeting. They said that he was undercutting everyone and not properly funding the production of this movie. Yeah. And they were saying this is absolutely absurd. So that could have been the arguments that happened there. And again, we don't know. We're not. We can only speculate from here.
And the whole where Alec was saying, if I had taken the gun apart to check, they would have taken it away from me thing is such a pansy, like that's what he would have done to someone as the producer. If he saw someone inspecting their weapon, he would have taken it out of their hands and fired the guy because he's lying. Because he's impatient. He doesn't have patience.
I see what you're saying, but he's just lying.
That's also possible.
Like George Clooney was like, I always check.
Yeah.
Because you get in trouble. If Alec Baldwin is like, I didn't check because they told me I wasn't supposed to, it's like, well, you realize that's still involuntary manslaughter, right? Yeah. Like, so that's a BS argument. And it sounded clever. He probably thought in his mind, this one makes a lot of sense. And then all it does is incriminate him. Oh, so you're saying you knew the guy who was manipulating it wasn't supposed to hand it to you and you fired it anyway. You knew that if someone manipulates the gun other than the prop guy, it must be handed back to the prop guy, and you still took it, aimed it at her, pulled the hammer back, and fired it. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.